So real quick first, with Massive, I just I didn't mention, or I guess I shouldn't say mention, but the macro knobs. I really didn't know. I thought they did one thing, but I didn't really have a firm grasp on it. I basically thought this little section down here, the macro control, I thought it was for mapping to a MIDI controller. In other words, you could choose parameters and have these knobs map to the knobs on your MIDI controller, or something like that. But uh, what they do is actually pretty cool. So what they do is they allow you to control multiple parameters at the same time. Okay, kind of like the same thing that modulating an LFO or the performer or stepper will do, but you can apply these to anything you want. So here we have a square wave and a saw, square, saw, okay? And then the intensity knob, okay, that's basically giving us harmonics, okay? And then I'll turn on the second oscillator, turn off the amp, and I'll make this an octave higher. And let's choose some different waveforms here. Let's do, I don't know, rough math. Something where the intensity is obvious, okay? And then I'll choose a third one, and we'll try, I don't know, Woody. I don't know what Woody is, but let's see. And that's not really great. Let's try Crude. That's not really great either. Screamer. All right, that's fine. So I'm gonna leave. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take macro 1 here, and notice that they're not named. You can kind of name them whatever you want. I'm gonna take macro 1 and put it to the intensity knob, and then I'm gonna modulate it. And then these two, I'm gonna put the intensity knobs in the middle, and I can modulate those up and down. But I'm gonna do the same macro knob here, okay? So basically, what happens is I can put this macro knob to all 3 intensities. And now as I turn this knob, it's like hand modulation. So as I turn this knob, what it's doing is it's turning all 3 of these at the same time, okay? Okay, so it's a pretty cool way, and I can rename this. I can rename this oscillator intensity, okay? So it's a way of having one parameter control several. And when I roll this knob, it's basically going to move the knob to wherever the yellow parts are, okay? You can see. So on this one, when I turn the knob to the right, it's effectively like turning this to the left, okay? And then this one, oscillator 3, when I turn the knob, it's turning it to the right. So whichever direction the yellow line goes in, that's which way it will modulate the knob. Okay, so you can add sound and shape by just assigning a macro to multiple parameters, and then you could always just automate this knob, right? Okay, very easy. Okay, and then you can kind of create movement. I didn't start my MIDI note before. Okay, pretty cool. But you can use this to do, to assign to pretty much any parameters, like we could have, say we have a couple filters here, and we're on parallel mode. We have scream here. Okay. We can have one macro do both cutoffs as well as the scream knob. So let's do macro 2. Okay. And 2 again. And then we'll also have it modulate the scream knob. Okay, so we can rename this filters. Okay, and as we move it, okay, it will basically turn all 3 of these knobs at the same time. I might not want to have it so aggressive and go all the way down. Okay. Okay, so the macro knobs are pretty cool, and I really never bothered to use them before because I thought they were mainly just for like mapping, MIDI mapping. So for live stuff, or if you want to map the parameters to, like I said, knobs on your MIDI controller or something like that. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of go over that really quick because I think it's pretty cool, a pretty cool function. And you can still, if you want to map, or I'm sorry, have an LFO modulate something, you can add multiple on the same thing, you know. So we can have, let me get rid of this automation real quick. Okay. So yeah, we can still have the LFO move the same stuff, you know, if we want to. You can have an LF. You can. So there are two modulation slots for every parameter, and the one that says SC, that's for sidechaining. We're not even going to get into that in this class. So, but yeah, you can have these do multiple things, right? So here's my LFO, and then I can also move it. I can control it with the macros too. Okay, pretty cool. All right, I just wanted to kind of go through that real quick and mention that. All right, cool. And then, have any of you started exploring Absinthe yet? No? Huh? Absinthe? It's a Native Instruments plugin. Okay. It's also a wavetable synthesizer, right? Meaning that you can stack different waves on top of each other. But it also has granular capabilities, all right? So it's kind of a hybrid wavetable granular synthesizer, all right? The granular aspect you can do from a number of different places. You can even just turn on the filter here, and you have this cloud option, and that effectively basically it adds grains. Okay, hear the grains? Okay, so that's pretty cool. Filter. Yeah, yeah. So basic rundown: you have 3 oscillators, A, B, and C. Right? You can turn them on and off here. All right. I keep playing the Spider-Man thing. I need to find a different chord. Let's do major. Ooh, that doesn't sound good. All right, so on your oscillators, you can choose the waveform here from this drop-down menu. Single, double, FM. So there is FM synthesis. There's ring modulation, fractalize. I don't even know. Here's your waveforms over here. I want to find. Let's find something with harmonics. Let's do a sawtooth wave. Okay. Okay. And then we have this fractalize, which I really don't. Okay. So it's basically like almost like a bit crush effect. You hear it? You hear the difference? Okay. This is transposing. And this is phase, which again, remember that the phase just determines where the waveform starts, okay? So you can kind of change the phase there. All right, and then if you want FM synthesis, you can hear it modulate the frequency, right? Puts it slightly out of tune. Okay, so there's all different ways. This is a double. So it's playing octaves, okay, single, double. It will actually double the waveform, okay. But yeah, there's a bunch of different and weird waveforms that aren't in the other instruments, like organ, okay, which is pretty cool, right? A couple of different horns, female vocals. I think that really sounds like a female vocal, but all right. So all kinds, woodwind, a woodwind oscillator. Mid buzz. Okay. Some blues in here. Alright. But you can go through these all. Let's do a sine wave here. And we'll bring it down a few octaves. And I'm going to take this off of double. Put it on single. So I can kind of make a bass sound. I took this down an octave. Okay. Okay, and now I can turn on my second one. And I always like to, when I make bass sounds, I like to put a sine wave on the bottom voice, and then at somewhere I like square waves. Where's my square? Saw square. Okay. So now I have two oscillators going. The first one sounds like this. Second one sounds like this. Okay. And you can again pitch this up if you want, or you can even double it. Let's hear what it sounds like alone. Doesn't really sound different, does it? Oh, I see. So when you select double, the transpose does the second one, not the first. Do you hear the difference? So that first tone doesn't change. Interesting. Okay. I'm just gonna leave it on single for now. Okay. And then up here we can put a sawtooth wave and bring that an octave up. Maybe this we can double. Let's hear what it sounds like alone. Wonder if there's a way to get the other tone to change. That's kind of annoying. Let's leave it on single then. Okay, so big bass sound. Okay, so before we get into any of the craziness of this instrument, if you go to envelope, that's your ADSR, and you see there's 3 of them. There's one for each oscillator. Okay, you can move them separately, but if you use this master ADSR, it will move them all simultaneously. Okay, so you have attack, attack, release, sustain, delay. Okay, and you can see there's like a little timeline that moves through time. Pretty cool. Okay, you can just select one of the ADSRs. Okay, but then if you hold down Shift, you can see all 3, and you can control all 3 simultaneously if you're using 3 oscillators. So that's pretty useful. Okay. Let's go to the LFO slot. The LFO slot is here. There are 3 LFOs. Only one of them is on right now. You have to turn on the other 2. Okay? And then you basically, like all the other instruments that we've been, studying, you have to select the target. Okay? So what the oscillator is going to oscillate. So you can have it oscillate pitch, right? You can choose how far up and down the pitch goes. Like right now it's going an octave. Okay? Now where's the rate? There it is. Okay? So this little guy up here is the rate of oscillation. Okay? Up here you can choose the shape of the oscillation. Right now it's a nice smooth sine wave, but we can make it a triangle if we want. We can make it square. Okay. Pretty cool. And then again, the phase just changes where in the waveform it starts and stops. I always use massive to kind of demonstrate what phase is. So if you look at this LFO, 1 second, Nate. If you look at this LFO, moving the phase is just sliding it over so that the actual oscillator starts at a different point. That's all phases, okay? Yeah, what's up, Nate?
I was gonna ask, can you modulate that thing you were doing with the ASIN, making it faster or slower? Can you modulate it?
You mean automate it?
Yeah,
of course. You can automate anything. Yeah. Technically, this is modulating, okay? Right now, we have the LFO modulating pitch, okay? But if we don't want it to modulate pitch, we can have it modulate a number of different things. So right now, it's modulating the pitch on all 3 oscillators, but you can turn off 2 of the oscillators. So if you wanted to just modulate 1 oscillator, okay, you can hear it clearly modulating one and not the other, which that actually sounds pretty cool. And then the third, okay, or you can have it do all 3, okay? So that's pitch. If you want it, you can have it do volume, right? So volume, and then if you want, you know, a bigger, I guess, pool of parameters to choose from for modulation, you can select them from here, okay? So, you know, you have oscillator pitch, oscillator gain, filter frequency, all this stuff. So let's put a filter on our sounds. Okay, we'll turn the filter on all 3, and I'm just gonna do, I want to do the same type of filter on each one, just for like for the modulation purposes, right? So we have low pass, 2-pole, and let's see here. Let's have it. So filter frequency. Oh, we have to turn this up. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. Not working. Yeah, it's working. Okay. So right now it's modulating this right here. It's taking this and going back and forth, right? Okay. You probably, if you're going to use that, you probably want to use a sine wave. Make it a little more smooth. Right. Pretty cool. Okay. Whoa. All right. You could have it do the resonance. Make sure the resonance is up. Where is the resonance on these things? Feedback. I'm not hearing anything. I don't see a resonance function on those filters though. But let's try cloud. Okay, so the cloud filters are really fun. Let's change these all to cloud filters. Cloud. Now cloud is where you're going to get a lot of granular stuff happening, right? Okay, so if we go back to our LFO, let's select cloud filter, cloud rate. Okay, so now it's modulating the cloud rate. Let's try cloud transpose. Okay. So you can choose, you know, any parameter to have the LFO effect, which is pretty nice. Okay. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. All right, but there are 3 LFOs. You just have to turn them on and off. All right. Envelope is your ADSR. Wave, there's nothing here. Perform, this is more for like I said, macro controls. Volume, macro. You know, I'm really not familiar with this. I would have to, let's see. You have to select something. Yeah, I don't know how this works. I'll look into that and find out. But there are no presets in this browser, and that's kind of what these parameters control. So the way this instrument works, I don't know why there's no presets in here. There's just not. Okay. Oh wait. Nope, they're all disabled. Okay. So the way this preset works is you have your bank, which will be like synth or percussion or whatever, and then in the type and subtype they have I guess kind of like adjectives, like it'll be like dark or eerie or, you know, suspenseful or something, and the mutate amount turns up how much it takes from those weird little adjectives. So for our purposes, this section will not do anything because we have no presets to load in here. Okay, and then the effects. Let me turn this LFO off. Go back to my patch. Okay. I'll turn these off. Okay. The effects is really fun. Okay. You have to turn them on, and then you have all different kinds of things here. Pipe, which if you want to hear with the effect, you can turn down the dry signal. I really don't hear much of anything. Multicomb. Multi-tap. This is like a delay. Okay. Echoes. So that's the effects. And you have all these parameters down here. Resonators, which that's just going to add harmonics. But this is the one I love. The Aetherizer. It's my favorite thing about this instrument. I think I went over this last time, but this is basically advanced granular synthesis, right? So down here you see the grains. And if you really want to hear what it's doing to the sound, like I said, you can turn down the dry knob, okay? And just hear the affected signal, okay? So here's your grain controls, right? You have all kinds of ways to... Okay, so if you turn down the rate, the grains are very far apart. And you can actually hear the grains, right? But as you ramp that up, you hear a lot of grains, right? Okay? And you can feed them back. Grain duration. So if I turn this down, you can turn down the duration of the grains. So when this is low, you can really hear the grittiness of the grains. Okay? Crazy, right? All right. So with our original sound, it would sound like this. All right. So it just adds a lot of grit to your sound. Pretty cool. But I love doing this. So I love. Oh, you also have a randomizer. You can if you see here, if I take this down so that you can actually see the grains, you can randomize the distance between the grains. So again, if I turn this down, okay, it randomizes things. Then you have feedback for this. So the feedback works kind of like the feedback on a delay, right? In other words, the higher this is up, the longer it'll last after you let go of the key, okay? And then this is the best part over here, the filter and the filter quantize, I love. So you can quantize it to scale degrees, okay? Right? And then the randomizer, wait, how's the, here we go. Let me turn down the dry. Isn't that great? It's such a cool sound. Now you see what that did? Now look at all those little grains all over the place. It's pretty cool, right? Isn't that great? It's such a cool sound. So what it's doing is it's syncing the grains to chord tones from the chord that I select. So right now I have major scale, but I can also select a major 7 chord. So whatever note I play, it'll play the grains in chord tones from a major 7 chord. Okay? And here I can select minor 7. Okay? So this is a kind of a cool thing to have like in the background. I actually use this on one of my records that I made with my friend Ben, right? It's like the, let's see. Over here, this last song, I use this in the very beginning. Kind of hear it in the background there. You can hear it in the background. Okay. So you can use this in your music. It's not, it's not just for like the sound design project, right? Okay. But yeah, try experimenting with this. This would be a really cool thing to add to your sound design project. These little blips. You got a whole tone scale, right? Okay. And you have all these different parameter controls. All right. Cool, right? All right. All right. So a lot of fun with this. It's pretty cool. And then again, if you want to add your original sound, you can just turn up the dry knob. Right? Okay. So I like to use just the wet because you just hear the effect. You don't hear any of the original oscillators, which is I think pretty cool. Okay. All right. So we are running low on time. So if you have any questions about this, make sure you ask me during the lab about Absinthe. But I want to move on to Kontakt. I can get rid of this. Bye-bye. All right, so Kontakt, I don't need you. Kontakt is Native Instruments sampler. And it is arguably the best digital sampler on the market. There are things that you can do with it that you simply cannot do with any other sampler, okay? So obviously we went through the sample library and instruments, right? We started going through these, right? But I want to teach you how to load your own samples in. It's actually so ridiculously easy. So I have downloaded a folder of breaks. By the way, for those of you who didn't have me for 115, I gave my class a whole folder full of classic breaks. I'll upload that in case you want that too. You can have it. What? All right, yeah, you got it. All right, so I'm just going to drop. All you have to do to drop a sample in is literally drag and drop it in. And then this is what will happen. You'll see this, okay? So this is the amen break, right? Okay. So what you want to do is you want to open this little wrench, right? The wrench is going to give you all the parameter controls and modulation, okay? And what I love about Kontakt, as opposed to so many other Native instruments, is that this little orange light shows you the modulation. So you can see how when I press a key, it modulates the volume knob, okay? So I really, in a lot of ways, I think I should start this class with Kontakt because I think it's easier to understand what modulation is if you can see it, if you can see like a visual representation of what's being modulated, okay? But let's just go over some basics here. So right now it's working as every other, crappy sampler, where middle C is the original sample, but if you play an octave higher, it's like really fast, and if you play an octave lower, it's really slow, okay? So this is one of the most brilliant things about Kontakt, but if you just click on this little tab here where it says source, and you select time machine, it like instantly gets rid of that. So I can do this, okay? Okay, and for those of you who have ever worked with samplers and working with your own samples, this one little feature is like a godsend, okay? Being able to just click a button and have all your samples synced in time together is amazing, okay? So before we get on into all these parameter controls, your main tabs. Before I forget, okay. It's a common problem when people first start using this that they'll play the keyboard and they don't hear anything. this MIDI, this is your MIDI channel drop-down menu. There are several options, but if you select Omni, it will accept MIDI information from every source. So I always just recommend you select Omni when you're using this. Okay, that's that. All right. The mapping editor basically shows you how the sample is mapped on the keyboard. Okay. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but can you see that little red dot? Right. Okay. So, horizontally, it's just which note you're playing. So you can see down here, and then when I play up here, it'll be up here, right? But vertically, it's velocity. So if I press a hard velocity, you'll see the red up at the top. But if I press it lightly, you'll see it all the way down at the bottom. Okay? So that's what that little red guy is doing. And this will allow you to choose where on the keyboard the sample plays. So if I do C2, and you can just scroll around to C4, it'll let me play here, but if I play below that, nothing, okay? And you can see the red dot as I press the key. And this will allow me to close this and drag in another sample if I want. Let's just take any one. Alligator Boogaloo, okay. Error, okay. There it is. MIDI, Omni. And now if we open this and go to our mapping editor, why is it not here? That's weird. Let's try a different one. My first one's still there. Let's try Apache. It's classic. Error, could not load sample, unsupported format. A WAV file is not supported? How is that even possible? All right. Well, anyway, because I don't want to run out of time, but usually you can add multiple samples in here and choose where the samples go. The yellow key is always the original sample, okay? But now let's just make this like this again, and just for the sake of this. Okay. All right. The wave editor, if you click on it, will show you the waveform of the sample, okay? And as you hold down the key, you'll see this little cursor move across in time, okay? My tempo here is 120, right? Okay. I know just from working with the Amen break that the tempo is like 137. It's like 137 and change, actually. It's like 137 point something. So if I put this on, it will be pretty close. Pretty close, okay? But what if I don't want that to be my tempo and I don't feel like using flex time? This is an insanely cool feature. If you go down here to the Sync Slice tab and hit this button, Time Machine Pro, and then turn on the grid, it will allow you to play the note and adjust the tempo, okay? Without even using flex time. Whoa, grainy. Okay? Yes?
What if you didn't know the tempo of the sample?
That's the whole point of this. Yeah. You don't have to know the original tempo.
You just drag it in.
Yep. You turn on this, use Time Machine Pro, and then turn on the grid, and it will just sync it to the tempo, whatever the tempo is. Okay? Isn't that great?
I'm here for this.
It's an amazing feature. It's really like... No other stock samplers can do any of this stuff. Like the ESX, the NNXT, and Reason, no built-in stock samplers can do anything like this. Okay, so it's really cool. So let me just turn this back off. Okay, okay. It's like crazy jungle. All right. So with this mapping editor, you can do a lot of things. You can zoom in, right? And then if you'll see that when I zoom out, there's a start marker and an end marker. So if I want the sample to start in the middle, I can just move the start marker and it will start from here, okay? If I want just the snare drum, right? I can just put the start marker to the snare and then drag the end marker to the same spot. And now I have the Amen break snare drum as a single sample, okay? So if you like the Amen snare, which most people do, it's a great sounding snare, but you don't want the rest of the break, you can just have this, and now it's pitched. If you turn on, if you go to source and do time machine, now it will be, all right, mapped across the whole keyboard without it affecting the time, okay? So let's go back to our wave editor. All right. So, yes, do you have a question? Brian? No? Just stretching? All right, cool. So now, and so obviously this is a really easy to use as just a kind of generic sampler if you want to load drum sounds into this. It's really super easy, okay? But in my opinion, what's so cool about this instrument is that you can take a sample of something and turn it into a completely unique instrument, okay? So I'm going to leave this on the snare hit, right? So it just has a nice hard attack and not a lot of release, okay? Now I'm going to close the wave editor and get back to my yes?
Reverse it.
Of course. I don't know how, but let's see. It can't be that hard. Let's find out. Let's reverse it. Sample loop. Here we go. Yep. Loop start. And then until end. No. Loop start. Loop edit. Nope. Tune count. Crossfade. Loop mode. Until end. Until release. There has to be a way to reverse it. Hold on. Let's see here. Zone envelopes. Sample editor, fade. Reverse. Nothing selected. Okay. No way. Boom. All right. Okay. So yeah, it's at the in this last tab here, the sample editor. You just have to select what you want reversed. Okay. And then turn this back off. Okay. Nope. All right. So now we're back where we started from. Okay? Answer your question? Cool. So let's go back to the wave editor. All right, so I have a snare sound. It's okay. But let's try to make a synth sound out of it. Let's try to make this into like a pad, all right? So instead of time machine for my source, I'm going to select tone machine. And now it generates a tone, okay? Now, what this is also granular synthesis. So this speed knob, here are your main controls for the sound, right? This is grains, okay? So as I turn this down, you can kind of hear it getting a little grainy. And the smooth knob. All right, and then formants, of course, are overtones, if you want overtones. Yes?
How did it change? Like, you changed the shape of the wave, basically?
No, the wave is still there. It's the same. I just turned on the tone machine function instead of time machine. Here's time machine. Well, it's because I turned down the speed. All right, and the smooth. And now here's your grain, right? So before, this just in case you want to just affect the sound of the snare, if you turn down the speed, it turns it really grainy. And now you can affect the length of the grain. Pretty cool. Okay? If you want to make your snare drum sound like that. I don't know why you would. Okay, but if you wanted to have more of a tone, like a musical instrument, you select tone machine. All right, and now as I turn the speed down, you can see that it has more of an instrument sound. Okay. These formants move in half steps, by the way. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like here's an octave. You can go an octave above or below the original pitch. Let's leave it up since, and we can also modulate all this stuff, okay? All right, so because I'm trying to find a synth sound, I want to get my original sound to kind of sound like a synthesizer. All right, So let's just talk about this interface here. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll find your main ADSR, okay? You can see that it's assigned to volume. Dude, my phone is buzzing like crazy in my pocket. Okay, all right, so here's your main ADSR. We can, of course, roll off the attack and increase the release, right? So it already sounds nothing at all like a snare drum, which is really cool, right? Okay? Maybe we can do our delay, our sustain, make it sound a little more like an actual synthesizer, okay? All right, cool. So now we can start to add modulation. So here's your main parameter controls, okay? Now you see down here, there's a little mod folder, okay? There's actually one here for the original source sound, and there's one for the effects. We're not gonna, I'll show you that in a second, but let's just add a modulator. So you have to add a modulator, and it already comes with the pitch bend, which is the pitch bend knob. Of course, we're gonna have that affecting pitch, but let's add another one. And now we have this drop-down menu of choices that we can add as modulators. Let's use an LFO, since we've been using LFOs, or talking about LFOs, okay? And now I'm going to choose sine wave, so you can choose this shape, all right? Now, you can see here's our new modulator, and right now it's selected to target the pitch, okay? So it's oscillating pitch. The bias, where's the pitch knob? Okay, so right now you see that this is the parameter that's being modulated, the tune, the pitch knob, all right? As this fader is called bias. So as I turn up the bias, you'll see that it really starts to oscillate the pitch. And now you can see what modulation is. As I hold down a note, you can actually see the modulation. And that's one of the things I love about Kontakt. Okay? Now, as far as the oscillator itself, all our parameter controls are going to be at the bottom for our modulators. So we only had ADSR down here. Now we have the LFO that we just added, which is right now targeting pitch. Okay, so we can increase this by. All right, so you can increase the rate of the LFO by using this frequency knob, and then the fade in is basically an attack function for the actual LFO. If you don't want it to start right away. So if I turn this all the way up, you will not hear any oscillation for a second. And then it starts, okay? There it goes. Let me turn this up so we hear it more distinctly. Okay? So the first however many milliseconds I have selected will just be the original tone, unaffected by the LFO. All right? And then, of course, the phase, as you can see, will, as I keep saying, moves the starting point of the LFO. Okay, so you can see that you can choose any point in the wave to start and stop. Okay? All right, so that's an LFO. We have it targeting pitch. Let's have it target another parameter. Let's have it do speed. So now it's going to target this knob. And if I turn this up a little, you can see that it moves this. This one really doesn't work very well. Let's see. No fade in. Okay. So it's effectively modulating this little speed knob here. You can see it move, right? That's not a really great sound. So let's have it affect the formant shift. So now it's affecting this. Interesting. Okay. So you can add modulators and have them modulate any one of these parameters. All right. Pitch is too fast. Let's have it try it modulating the formant knob. Okay, so that's a cool way to get a little motion in our sound. All right, that's cool. Let's make it slow. So it's too slow. That's pretty cool. Okay. Okay. Stop. All right. Any questions about this so far? No? Okay, good. Let's just have this keep it on the form and shift. Okay. All right, now on to the effects slot. So you have group insert effects. Okay, you also have more insert effects, but these don't have the option to add modulation. Okay, so we'll stick to this area up here. As you can see, there's a similar modulation tab here. Okay, and then you can just click to add effects. You have everything: filters, EQs, compressors, amps, stomps. I don't really know what a stomp is. It looks like distortion. Okay, saturation, all kinds of stuff. You can add a rotator. I don't know what that is. But let's just start by adding a filter. We'll add a low pass 2-pole ladder filter, right? Okay, so now we have, here's our filter cutoff. Okay, resonance. I need more release on the sound. And you know what? I'm gonna get rid of this modulator because it doesn't sound good. So let me just get rid of this. To get rid of any modulation, you can just click on it until it's highlighted in yellow and just hit delete. So I can get a better sound out of this now. I like it better like this. Alright, so it's already a pretty cool sound. Alright. Nice little pad sound. Now, we added a low pass filter here. Here's the cutoff. Right, okay. And we have volume. Right, alright. Now, we can add a modulator to this effect if we just click on the modulator tab. And now we can have an LFO affect the filter cutoff. So now, see it moving back and forth? Okay. So as I turn down the bias, it will be less aggressive. Alright. In other words, it will move. Pretty cool. Alright. And then for this new LFO, we can just go down here and we see it here at the bottom. And we can make it as aggressive as we want. Okay. Pretty cool. It's a little too much bias. You can invert the bias so it starts at the bottom, right? Okay. Pretty interesting. Okay. All right, let's add some more effects. Let's add, we can add, there's compressors, there's, transient shaper if we want to add more attack. Let's do, let's add stomp. Let's add a stomp. Let's add some distortion here. Let's hear what this sounds like. Screamer, that's pretty cool. Bass. Alright. Pretty cool sound. Alright. And again, if we wanted to, we could add a modulator to the screamer and have it and have anything we select, any one of these modulate any one of these parameters. Okay, but I'm not going to. Okay, just want to kind of keep experimenting with these effects. Let's try a cabinet amp. Okay, so now we have a. Alright, pretty fun stuff. You can always just get rid of it by just clicking the X. Alright, we have, what's twang? Van 51. What? So this looks like a multi-band type of amp or something. Presence. So this is like basically like an 80s guitar amp, okay? It has all the same parameters, presence, lead, okay? Treble. All right, that's pretty cool. So yeah, we can keep adding effects. You can add all kinds of stuff. Is there reverb in this? I don't think so. But you have all. Oh, here's effect. Formant. No, no, I don't want that. Multi. No, 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 no. I'm just looking for like a reverb or something, but I don't see any. But that's fine. Okay. Okay, so yeah, everything you add, every modulator you add will be at the bottom. Okay, and we can make this crazy if we want. Okay, so as you see, you can really get creative with this instrument. All right, my original sound is a snare drum. Okay, and I turned it into this. Right, all right. So pretty cool stuff. Everybody clear on the modulation and how to do it? This 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 is probably the only thing I don't like about Contact is the GUI. I just think it looks old, you know? It looks like something from the 80s or something, you know? I don't know. But that's kind of irrelevant, you know? Really what's important is how it functions, okay? Let's add one more modulator. Let's add a modulator to... how about this scream function? So I'm going to click on the screamer, add modulator, and let's have an envelope. We have an ADSR here. We can just have that affect the. Right now it's affecting the drive. Okay. Now we can go down here. Here's the new ADSR modulator that we created. And we can have this. All right, and go back up. And now it's modulating this drive knob. Turn down this hold. That's why it's holding there, right? So you can see that what the ADSR is doing, it's modulating the drive knob as it decays, okay? So as the sound decays, it modulates downward very slowly with the natural, at the same rate as the natural decay of the sound. Watch. Okay? So that's pretty cool. Let's see what happens when we have that modulate the tone. I guess you can only modulate the tone and the drive in this ADSR, which is good to know. So let's hear what tone sounds like. I like it better on the drive. Okay? Alright. But we can add another one. Let's add an LFO to the tone. So let's do LFO, sine wave, and we'll have this one doing tone. Alright, so we're down here. Now that we added a new modulator, okay, let me turn down this release is crazy. Okay, here's our new oscillator. So if we go back up, we can see that every time I press it, the new LFO is modulating the tone knob. And I have the ADSR modulating the drive knob. Okay? So you can really make some really cool sounds with this. Alright. It's a little aggressive, I'll give you that, but I'm just trying to illustrate the point here. You can turn down the bias. So you understand what the bias does? It controls how far back and forth the modulation occurs. See that? It's real close, and now if I roll that up, it'll go from side to side, basically. Okay? But you can always invert the direction of the modulation. Okay? So just try to remember that my original sound is a snare drum, and it's pretty cool. So if I turn this back on the sampler, that's my... Did I forget to unreverse this? No, it's because of all the parameters and stuff. All right. But if you close this and turn it back onto Tone Machine, it should still sound the same. All right. All right. Any questions? All right. Start getting into it. That's enough for today. Have a good Wednesday, and I'll see you next week.